Hello friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. It was posted by Feisty Implement 6823 on January 5th, 2025, and was titled, Am I the Jerk for not wanting to share my inheritance with my sister? So, I, 28 male, recently lost my father. It was a really tough time, but we knew it was coming because he had been sick for a while. Before he passed, he made it clear in his will that I would inherit the majority of his estate, including his house and a significant amount of money. My sister, 25 female, would receive a smaller amount, mostly sentimental items and a bit of cash. Here's the thing, my sister and my dad didn't have a good relationship. She moved out when she was 18, and they barely spoke after that. My dad tried to reconnect several times, but she always shut him down. I, on the other hand, took care of him during his illness, visiting almost every day and handling all his medical appointments. Now, my sister is furious. She's calling me selfish and saying that it's unfair that she got so little. She thinks I should split the inheritance 50-50. I told her I respected Dad's wishes and that I don't think it's my responsibility to change what he wanted, especially given the circumstances. She argues that family is family and that it's not fair to punish her for their estranged relationship, but I think it's not my fault they didn't get along. She had years to fix things with him, but she chose not to. My mom, they're divorced, is on her side, saying that I should do the right thing and give her more money to keep the peace. Some friends agree with her, while others think I'm justified in keeping what I was given. So, am I the jerk for not wanting to share my inheritance with my sister? Scaling Stories Corner. Nah, OP doesn't need to share anything here. His mom and sister are super slimy and greedy to try and guilt him into sharing the inheritance. First off, if the inheritance should be split 50-50 because she's his daughter and OP is his son, then why wasn't his end-of-life care split 50-50? Oh, all of a sudden, it's not 50-50. I would say that it's the dad's money, and he's free to do what he wants with it. But then I remembered a story where OP was a girl and took care of her family, and when her dad ended up passing away, he left all his money to her immature brother because he thought he needed it more than OP, since OP was like dependable and self-sufficient. But in that story, I thought the dad was wrong in his decision on where he left his money. But in here, it just makes sense. The sister had a bad relationship with the dad, and she couldn't have cared less in trying to rebuild a relationship with him. I have no idea why their relationship broke down, but OP says she pretty much went no contact with him after she moved out at 18. And she's 25 now, so that's 7 years of pretty much no contact. And that's a pretty considerable amount of time. You're essentially closer to a stranger than someone that is familiar. But yeah, no relationship with the dad, didn't bother to care for him in his while he's sick or his old age. So of course the dad is going to leave everything to the child that did take care of him. And that's just basic common sense to me. So how is she surprised? Or I guess she's not really surprised, she's just being greedy here. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, not the jerk. Your dad didn't leave you the estate to play Robin Hood. She distanced herself for years, and now she wants the perks? Nah. Honoring his wishes isn't being selfish. It's just following instructions. If your sister wanted a bigger cut, she should have RSVP'd to family life earlier. Commenter 2 says, so, family is family now, but it wasn't when your dad tried to have a relationship with her? Honor dad's wishes, not the jerk. Commenter 3 says, sis can have the mom's inheritance. OP later adds an edit to his post. I've seen some comments saying this sounds fake or that I'm leaving out key details, so let me clarify a few things. First, about my sister's estrangement. It wasn't something that happened overnight. After my parents' divorce, she sided heavily with my mom and gradually distanced herself from our dad. She blamed him for the split, and even though dad tried to reconcile over the years, she was unwilling to meet him halfway. I'm not saying she's a bad person, divorces are messy, but it's not like dad cut her off for no reason. Second, I know some of you might think dad was playing favorites, but I don't see it that way. I think he divided things based on who was there for him in his final years. It wasn't about punishment. It was about recognition. Recognition. I swear I can pronounce that in my head really easily. It's the nerve damage. Lastly, for those saying I'm conveniently painting myself as the golden child, I promise that's not my intention. My sister had her reasons for stepping back, but I stepped up because I felt it was the right thing to do. That's why this situation is so hard. I'm trying to honor my dad's wishes, but I also don't want to completely ruin my relationship with my sister. I hope this clears up some of the gaps. Q&A. I've seen a lot of questions, so I'll try to clarify some things to fill in the gaps. Why did my parents get divorced? My parents' divorce happened when I was 12 and my sister was 9. It wasn't one big event. It was a combination of things. My dad worked long hours running his own business, and my mom felt neglected. She also said dad had a controlling personality, which caused a lot of tension. On the other hand, dad felt mom wasn't supportive of his career and resented him for working so much. Eventually, they just couldn't make it work, and they decided to separate. My sister blamed dad for the divorce because, in her eyes, he was the one who chose work over family. Mom didn't exactly help. She would make comments about how dad cared more about his business than his kids. I think this shaped my sister's perspective and made her more distant from him. Why were my sister and dad so conflicted? After the divorce, I stayed with dad, while my sister lived with mom. Dad tried to stay involved in her life, but the distance, both physical and emotional, made things harder. Over time, my sister started avoiding him. For example, he'd call her, but she wouldn't pick up. He'd send gifts or letters, and she'd never acknowledge them. One of the big breaking points came when she graduated from high school. Dad showed up to her graduation uninvited because he wanted to celebrate her, but she got upset and accused him of trying to make it about himself. After that, they barely spoke. Why didn't my sister visit when my dad was sick? This is something only my sister can fully explain, but I think it goes back to their strained relationship. By the time dad got sick, they hadn't spoken in years. I reached out to her multiple times, telling her how serious things were, but she said she wasn't ready to see him. Dad was hurt but never angry. He just said she has to come on her own terms. Unfortunately, she never did. Why didn't dad just leave everything 50-50? I asked myself this too. I think dad felt the inheritance should reflect the relationships he had. He knew I had been there for him throughout his illness, and he wanted to recognize that. At the same time, he didn't want to completely exclude my sister, which is why he left her sentimental items and some money. I don't think it was about punishing her. I think he just wanted to acknowledge the reality of our family dynamic. Update 2 weeks later. Thanks for all the responses on my original post. After thinking it through and reading a lot of your comments, I've decided I'm not giving my sister anything beyond what dad left her. His will was clear, and I'm not going to disrespect his wishes to appease someone who didn't even bother to visit him when he was dying. I tried to be reasonable and explain my side, but it's pointless. My sister is still sending me nasty texts, calling me names, and acting like I stole from her. My mom is no better. She's basically turned this into a full-on guilt trip, saying things like, "You're tearing this family apart," and "You're just like your father." Honestly, if being just like dad means standing my ground, I'll take it as a compliment. At this point, I'm done trying to keep the peace. They can say whatever they want about me. I'm not changing my mind. I'm going to do what I want with the inheritance and move on with my life. If that means cutting some people off, so be it. To everyone who said I'm not the jerk, thank you. It feels good to have some validation. For now, I'm focusing on honoring dad's memory and making the most of what he left me. We'll see where this goes next, but I'm not backing down. Second update, 5 months later. It's been a while since my last update, but things have gone completely off the rails since then, and I need to get this off my chest. So, 6 months after my dad passed and the inheritance was finalized, my sister completely lost it. I thought things were rough before, but this took it to a whole new level. First, she tried to sue me. She claimed I manipulated dad into changing the will and accused me of undue influence, saying I isolated her from him while he was sick and pressured him while he was medicated. It was full of lies and reached so far that I don't even know how she said it with a straight face. She even had two friends of hers sign statements saying they felt something was off, even though neither of them was ever around our family. Her case got tossed, quickly. The judge dismissed it with prejudice, so she can't try it again. I thought that would be the end of it. Nope. She started harassing me. Constant texts, emails, and calls from private numbers. She made burner accounts on social media and commented on anything I posted. She signed me up for mailing lists. Then, I walked outside one day, and someone had spray painted thief across my garage. I have cameras now, and yeah, it was her. Clear as day. I had to file a police report, and that's still in progress. Then, she showed up at the house while I was gone for the weekend. She broke in through a back window. She wrecked the place. Ripped pictures off the walls, poured something on the couch, smelled like bleach, broke furniture, went through drawers, and dumped boxes of my dad's stuff on the floor. She left a note on the bathroom mirror that just said, "You don't deserve this." I reported the break-in. There's now a criminal case open against her. It gets worse. Right after that, she started telling extended family and mutual friends that I had S8'd her when we were younger. That's where I draw the line. It's not just petty inheritance drama anymore. She crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I've never done anything like that, obviously, and hearing that kind of accusation coming from your own sibling is something I don't think I'll ever fully process. I have nothing to hide, and I've already spoken to a lawyer. If she says it publicly again, I'm filing a defamation suit. My mom is still trying to play both sides. She says things like, "Your sister is just grieving in her own way," as if that justifies any of this. It doesn't. We're done. I've cut contact with both of them. If there's a takeaway here, it's that people can spiral in ways you never expect when money and guilt get mixed together. I kept thinking, surely this is the last straw, but it just kept going. I'm tired. I'm angry. And I'm done. I'll keep the house. I'll keep what dad left me. And I'll keep my distance. ScalingStories Corner. Literally, same. If I had a parent tell me my sibling was grieving in their own way after they broke into my place and destroyed it, and they're accusing me of SAing them when they were younger, I would no longer consider them my parents or my family. I don't know how much money exactly was in this inheritance by OP's dad, but I'm assuming it's something substantial based on how desperate his sister has tried to get a piece of it. Or it could just be a whatever amount too, and her brain is literally just fried and she's doing all this crap regardless. But yeah, calling the cops was good, and I would make sure they follow up and get her charged with whatever they can to see if they can put her in jail for however amount of time that that charge would land her in, like breaking and entering, maybe? Because surely she was caught on camera. And like, this isn't an instance of sending my sibling to jail. This is pretty much a stranger, at least to me, so it's okay. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Is your sister mentally ill? This reads like someone possibly having delusions and/or manic episodes." Commenter 2 says, "Wow, OP, I don't want to sound too harsh, but I hate your mother. Oh, your sister is just grieving by destroying your home and making false claims against you. Teehee, isn't she just crazy? For F's sake, mom needs to get her head out of her ass and actually do some parenting." Third update, 1 year later. It's been a while since my last update, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I would ever make another one. After everything that happened with my sister, I felt like there wasn't much left to say. The legal issues were moving through the system. I had cut contact with most of the people involved, and I was trying to focus on rebuilding my life instead of constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next disaster. Before I get into the update, I want to thank everyone who has followed this story. A few people recently pointed out that between the original post and all the updates, they've now been viewed over 1 million times. That's honestly difficult for me to wrap my head around. When I made the first post, I was just looking for outside opinions because I felt completely stuck. I never expected so many people to become invested in what started as a family argument over an inheritance. A lot of you gave advice that ended up helping more than you probably realize. The people who kept telling me to document everything were absolutely right. At the time, I thought I was being thorough, but looking back, I don't think I could have overprepared for what eventually happened. Every message, every email, every voicemail, and every piece of camera footage ended up mattering at some point. For the past several months, life has been surprisingly quiet. That's probably the biggest update I have. Over a year of constant conflict, legal filings, accusations, and drama, things finally slowed down. I didn't realize how much stress I had been carrying until I stopped having to deal with a new crisis every week. It's strange how quickly chaos becomes normal when you're living through it. One thing that did surprise me was hearing from extended family members I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Several people reached out over the last few months, and the conversations were very different from what I had expected. Instead of questioning me or asking about the inheritance, most of them were apologizing. Apparently, as more information came out and people started comparing stories, a lot of relatives realized they had accepted things they were told about me without ever asking for my side of the situation. Some of those conversations were honestly uncomfortable because I didn't know how to respond. A few relatives admitted they had believed I manipulated my father. Others said they assumed the lawsuit meant there had to be something suspicious about the will. One person even told me they thought I had intentionally prevented my sister from seeing my father during his illness. Hearing that was frustrating, but it also explained why some people had suddenly distanced themselves from me after my father passed away. The common theme in all those conversations was that people eventually started noticing inconsistencies. Different people had been told different versions of the same story, and those versions didn't always line up with each other. Once questions started being asked, some of the narratives that had circulated through the family became much harder to defend. For the first time since this entire situation began, I wasn't the one being asked to explain myself. My relationship with my mother remains complicated. We've spoken a handful of times, and while things are less hostile than they used to be, I wouldn't describe them as good. We still disagree about a lot of what happened, and I don't think either of us is likely to change our minds anytime soon. That said, we've at least reached a point where we can have a conversation without it turning into an argument within 5 minutes, which is more progress than I would have expected a year ago. As for my sister, there really isn't much to report. We haven't spoken, and I haven't made any effort to change that. Some relationships can survive serious disagreements, but what happened between us went far beyond a disagreement about money. Too many things were said, and too many lines were crossed for me to pretend everything can simply go back to normal. Maybe things will be different someday, but that's not something I'm actively hoping for or planning around. The biggest thing I've realized over the last year and a half is that the inheritance itself stopped being the main issue a long time ago. When I made the original post, I thought the argument was about money. Looking back, the money was just a spark that exposed years of resentment, unresolved family problems, and completely different views of the same events. The inheritance wasn't what broke my family. It just revealed how broken parts of it already were. For now, life is stable. The house feels like my home, work is going well, and I'm finally making plans that don't revolve around court dates or legal paperwork. After everything that's happened, I've learned not to assume that the story is completely over, but for the first time since my father died, it feels like I'm moving forward instead of standing still. As always, thank you to everyone who followed this situation and offered advice along the way. I never expected over 1 million people to read about what happened to my family, but I'm grateful for the support I've received. Hopefully, my next update, if there ever is one, will be significantly less dramatic than the ones that came before it. ScalingStories Corner. Well, I'm glad things turned out better for OP. I personally would have been hurt and a bit shocked at the other family members for not even trying to reach out to get my side of things and instead chose to believe whatever the sister was saying. But it's great that they apologized and sided with OP. Cause I had a prediction that they were going to side with the sister because they wanted in on the inheritance money. So I'm really glad that I was wrong on that one. And for OP's mom, I think he's being way too kind in forgiving her. She essentially picked his sister's side in all this crap. And after everything the sister has done, I think the most vile is being accused of SAing her when she was younger. There is absolutely nothing you could say or do to repair a relationship with me if you don't take my side in this matter if I was OP. And that's just for his mom, of course. I think he should never repair a relationship with his sister, and it doesn't look like he is, so that's good. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. OP comments, since a lot of people are asking about the criminal case, I'll answer what I can. I can't get into every detail because some of it is still subject to court records, and I don't really want to turn this into a play-by-play of the legal process. That said, the charges stemmed from the break-in and the damage to the house. The camera footage ended up being a huge factor. It clearly showed my sister entering the property while I was away and remaining inside for a significant amount of time. Combined with the condition of the house afterward, the damaged property, and some other evidence collected during the investigation, law enforcement felt there was enough to move forward. The charges included unlawful entry, criminal mischief/property damage, and a few related offenses. Again, I'm intentionally being somewhat vague because I don't want to post documents online, but it wasn't a situation where she was arrested because of an argument over inheritance. It was specifically tied to actions she took after the inheritance dispute. A lot of people have asked whether she served jail time. The answer is no. She ultimately accepted a plea agreement. From my understanding, that involves probation, restitution related to some of the damage, and conditions restricting contact. Some people will probably think that's too lenient, and others will think it's too harsh. But at that point, I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted the behavior to stop. The SA allegations were never part of the criminal case. Those accusations were never substantiated and never resulted in charges against anyone. My attorney's advice was to document everything, avoid public arguments, and address any false statements through the proper legal channels if necessary. I know some people were expecting a dramatic courtroom showdown, but real life is usually less exciting than Reddit wants it to be. Most legal disputes end with paperwork, negotiations, and people getting tired of paying lawyers. The biggest thing the criminal case accomplished was creating consequences and boundaries. For the first time since all of this started, there were actual restrictions in place. Whether people agree with the outcome or not, things became significantly quieter afterward, which was ultimately what I wanted. Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by ThrowRAS32 on October 12, 2021, and was titled, "My Fiancé Cheated on Me." I've, 32 female, been with my fiancé, 33 male, for 5 years. We were supposed to get married last August, but made the tough decision to postpone our big day until August of 2022 because a lot of our older family members had expressed concerns with flying and being around a crowd of people. I met him at work. We are both hairstylists at a higher-end salon. It's not really a creative environment. Occasionally, you'll get someone who wants rainbow hair, but other than that, it's very generic colors and cuts. Like 9 months ago, he told me he was feeling really depressed and stagnant at work and wanted to quit and work in a more creative environment. I supported him, and he started working at a new salon within the month. Literally everyone who works there is in their early to mid-20s besides him. Instantly, he was so much happier, and within a few weeks, he expressed his desire to start trying for a family and wanting me to come off the pill. I told him I thought it would be better to wait a little while, preferably after the wedding, because he wasn't bringing in the same money he used to. Some of his clients followed him, but the majority didn't, so his book/money was cut in half. His birthday is in May, and he brought up trying again and how he's in a good place at work and the timing is right. I agreed to come off birth control, not really trying or preventing it, thinking it would take months to get pregnant. I got pregnant in June, 20 weeks, 4 days, and we're both excited for the next chapter of our lives. In July, he changed his hours and started working more, and he told me it's because he wants to be able to have more money set aside for the baby because I won't be working for 6 to 8 weeks after birth. I didn't think anything of it and thought it's sweet he's trying to provide for the baby. 2 weeks ago, he sat me down, crying, telling me he effed up. I was thinking he got fired. He cheated on me with his 20-year-old apprentice/stylist under him. I was in complete shock because this is what he wanted. He told me it's been going on since he found out I was pregnant because all of a sudden, things he thought about just got really real and he couldn't handle it. I told him I couldn't deal with all this now and he needed to get out and stay with friends or family. He's been calling and texting me non-stop and apologizing, wanting to work on things, but he won't quit. I don't trust him and don't think I can unless he leaves his job and isn't around her all the time. I've talked to my therapist about this and I really don't know what the right answer is here. I'm not pissed. I'm hurt. He's going to be in my life forever, one way or another. I told him I'm 99% sure this is something I can't get over. I'm really trying my hardest to stay calm for the baby's sake because I know stress isn't good and can lead to issues. Any advice would be great. Him not being involved is not an option. I would never be that cruel. He'll be a great father. He's so good with kids. Scaling Stories Corner. He's so great with kids, but he cheated on you. And he's not going to quit his job where the girl he cheated with is also still working there? Like, what do you mean? Is this really the traits of a good father? How? The guy who pressures you into starting a family, and then after you get into the steps of starting a family, he's like, oh no, it's too real. I gotta hook up with my apprentice. That guy? I'm not saying OP should try to lose the baby or anything. I'm just slightly tilted because there's literally nothing that she has written that would indicate this guy would be a good father. But that last line is just, it's living in my head rent free. And also sorry for my lack of knowledge, but 20 weeks and 4 days is 5 months and 1 week, like 1 week pregnant. That's too late for an abortion, right? It just seems like a really long amount of time has already passed, but I'm not sure. I'm not really knowledgeable in that area, and also just not a girl. I have never been pregnant, so yeah. But if anything, if a child is happening, then I would definitely be low contact with this guy. We can talk about what our goals are, our future goals for our child would be in terms of like education and stuff, but absolutely no friendly chatting with him whatsoever. Maybe this is a good time for like one of those co-parenting apps to come in. I don't know any top of my head, but you know what I mean. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, so he begs you to have a baby, you get pregnant, and he reacts by starting an affair with his apprentice? Not really a guy you can trust when under pressure, is he? OP says, it makes no sense to me either. I've been racking my head for a why since I found out. Commenter 2 says, he baby trapped you. You said yourself that you've been trying to figure out a way to make things work because you're having his baby. That's what he was banking on. He wanted to cheat on you and figured that he could get away with it if he impregnated you. This was 100% premeditated so he could get away with having an affair. Throw him away. You can do better. Commenter 3 says, you said you're 99% sure you can't get over this. And that's all the advice you need. You aren't required to forgive him. You aren't required to get over it. You aren't required to give it a try. You don't have to try to trust him again, even if he leaves his new job. You don't. Your only requirement is doing whatever it is you feel deep down. And that 99% is what you feel. OP says, so powerful. You're right. I've been frantically trying to figure out a way to make this work and try to trust him because a baby is involved when, deep down, I already know this is over. It felt good to type that. Update 10 days later. Originally, he was reluctant to go see a therapist with me. My personal therapist had recommended we see a colleague of hers, but ultimately, I decided I no longer wanted to be in the relationship. We have gone to 2 sessions with my therapist to try to salvage a friendship for our child's sake. He agreed to keep going and is actually paying for it. He still wants to try to win me back. I met with one lawyer and did not like him at all, so I'm still looking for someone. I gave him the heads up in one of our sessions. He was pissed, but my therapist helped him realize that having concrete terms we have to stick to is beneficial for the baby. He told me during one of our sessions that he came clean because she told him she loved him and saw a future with him. He said he doesn't love her and doesn't want a future with her. She already knew about me and had met me a handful of times. Mostly everyone he works with knows me and knew what was going on. He wasn't worried about anyone spilling the beans. She's not pregnant. I won't be contacting the owner, like some people had mentioned in my post. I'm not going to screw around with my kid's future money. That's not okay in my book. He said he also feels so much more relevant at his new salon and that all the younger people look to him for advice, almost like he's a hair god. His words, not mine, and it feels really good to be appreciated for his talents again. He doesn't want to leave the salon. He admitted to feeling scared about being a dad, and he wasn't anticipating that, and he was upset I wasn't as stoked as he was in the beginning. It made him feel like I didn't want a family with him. He said he's been feeling underappreciated at home and started looking elsewhere. I can kinda see where he's coming from with that. After not leaving our house for months last year, I think we got into a weird pattern. I just wish he would have communicated that with me before he chose to have an affair. I think it's obvious I'm not having an abortion, even though many of you suggested that. ScalingStories Corner. Okay, so at least I'm glad OP is not giving him another chance. Because this guy is just like super disgusting. Like, ew, like vomit emoji, puke, and all that stuff, you know? I don't care what this guy has to say. He pressured OP into having a kid, and then what? Oh, you're not as stoked as I was for the kid at the start? Oh, I feel underappreciated. I'm gonna go bang my 10 years plus younger junior. Like, I feel bad that OP was blaming herself for it at the end of her post, because that is nowhere near her fault at all. If he had problems with the relationship, he needed to communicate it like an adult, because he's over freaking 30 years old, and he can learn to use his words. And also, what the hell? Everyone at the place he works at knew about OP and knew that he was cheating on OP, and literally no one spoke up. That is actually a garbage establishment. And it's truly so sad that OP can't report him, or else he'll be broke and unable to help pay for their child. But just wow. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Did he specifically admit to encouraging and pressuring you into having a baby now? Because I'm not sure how that fit into him feeling underappreciated. And I'm not even sure he felt underappreciated as much as he wanted you to treat him with the same adultation he was getting at his new job, because it was really good for his ego. And he couldn't adjust to coming home and being the same normal husband. Because it just feels like a bunch of narcissism, enjoying so much having everyone look up to you, which is understandable, and having the satisfaction of feeling relevant, but also pressuring your partner into having a baby she wasn't ready for, and then turning the tables to say that the reason that he screwed his 20-year-old assistant was kind of your fault. I do think the right thing to do is what you're doing. Not take him back, because he's unreliable in the extreme and selfish. And if you want to keep the baby, and you can afford to do it and co-parent with him, of course you should. But if you have any doubts, it will tie you to him, and I definitely think it's smart to get a legal agreement and try and get custody terms that are to your liking. I know you said he would be a great father, but he just sounds like an a-hole." OP says, "No, he didn't, but my therapist already knows that. I've been seeing her for a while. He did say he thought having a baby would fix things, but when I wasn't excited, he was disappointed. My therapist told him babies don't fix things. Oftentimes, they make them worse. I think you're right though, about him wanting the same level of attention at home. But when you've been together with someone for 5 years, you work full-time, and are pregnant, some things take a backseat, and some things don't matter at all anymore." OP says to another commenter, "I am 150% done with him. We are in therapy to try and salvage a friendship and co-parenting relationship." Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.